On this episode of Harvest Eating, I take a trip to a Florida potato farm to see how they grow potatoes destined for the tables of food lovers everywhere. Then I'll show you some of my favorite potato recipes. All that and more on this episode of Harvest Eating. After my farm visit, when I get back to the kitchen, I'll show you how to make Tartiflette, a classic French potato dish with bacon and Gruyere cheese. Then, crushed fingerling potatoes with duck fat and herbs. And finally, a grilled New York strip steak with potato canals and red wine sauce. So stick around. When it comes to growing potatoes, most of us think of Idaho, but let me tell you, potatoes are grown in many regions of the country. Today we're in Hastings, Florida to visit Blue Sky Farms, a small grower that has been in this business for many years. Most people have no idea that potatoes are a major crop in the state of Florida. Instead, we think about oranges, suntan lotion, and beaches when Florida comes to mind. However, here in Hastings, potatoes are king. Many different varieties are grown here, including red potatoes, gold potatoes, small Peruvian purple potatoes, delicious fingerlings, and many more. Growing potatoes is a challenging business. One big hailstorm can wipe out your multi-million-dollar crop in minutes. Farmers like Danny Johns take risks every day while using innovative methods to bring a large crop to the market. In Hastings, most potatoes are destined for potato chips. This region is famous for chip potatoes that are sold to the big snack food companies. Danny used to sell his taters to chip makers, but he's decided to focus instead on table potatoes and do things differently. With the local food movement in full swing, consumers like you and I are interested in trying new potato varieties, and Danny is happy to help out. Growing table stock means the potatoes must look perfect. They wind up in kitchens of consumers all over the Southeast, so appearance is very important. In Florida, the sandy soil is hilled up very high, and its loose, sandy consistency allows the potato plants to produce a heavy harvest. The potatoes are irrigated using long trenches that are flooded with water. Capillary action transfers the water across the hard-pan soil to the thirsty potato roots. Unlike Western potato growing methods, no overhead watering is used. Danny has been testing other means of irrigation too, like using drip tapes to reduce the amount of precious water being used. Drip irrigation allows for precise doses of water and nutrients to be placed directly at the plant's roots. Here at Blue Sky, there are several experiments in progress at any given time, including several in cooperation with Florida state officials. Pushing the envelope is something Danny does on a regular basis in search of more efficient growing methods. I was fortunate to leave Blue Sky with plenty of potatoes, and when I return, I'll show you some interesting ways to serve them. First up, a tartiflette with gold potatoes, bacon, creme fraiche, onions, and white wine. Stick around.
Tatler reusable canning lids, family owned since 1976. That's right, Tatler reusable canning lids. Yes, reusable with a lifetime guarantee. Made in America, BPA free. Tatler reusable canning lids, because those who can do. Get rid of the disposable lid. Go to reusablecanninglids.com. Tatler reusable canning lids.
Welcome back to Harvest Eating. Now let's make a rich potato dish that is common in the ski resorts up in the French Alps. It's called Tartiflette. It's delicious, so pay attention. The first step in making tartiflette is to get our bacon going. Now the French call bacon, or little chunks of bacon, they call it lardon. It's L-A-R-D-O-N, lardon. You and I, it's little chunks of bacon. So let's make some little chunks of bacon. This is it here. This is a good quality local bacon. What I'm gonna do is just pick these up, and this is thick cut bacon. Take a good sharp chef's knife and cut it into our lardons. Okay. Now that this is cut up, we want to put it in our pan, and this is a good heavy pan. You want to use a good sturdy pan so your bacon doesn't burn. We're going to turn on our vent hood and then go right into the pan. And now we want to focus on shallots. This is another thing that's going to make this taste really good. This is a little shallot. We're going to peel it and get it into the pan. All right, with the bacon working and the shallots in there cooking, we want to add a little bit of chives. And what I have here are some nice fresh chives. And this is quite simple. We're just going to mince them up and throw them right into the bacon and shallots. All right, with those chives in there now, we just want to get this bacon crisped up a bit. And I'm not draining this bacon. A lot of times you would drain the bacon, but I really want that fat. It's going to help our potatoes taste great. So we're going to leave it in there. And as you can see, the bacon is starting to pick up a lot of color and a lot of crispness. This is not the time to go away and go and check your email. Stay right here and make sure you don't burn this bacon. All right, let the bacon cool down. Now I need to add a few more ingredients before we get to the potato part of the recipe. What I'm going to add here is some white wine. This is dry white wine. We're just going to pour that right in. And then I've got something that's just very classic in French cooking, creme fraiche. This is an awesome stuff. And by the way, if you want to learn how to make this, go to the Harvest Eating website and there's a recipe and a video for making creme fraiche. We're going to just dump this right down in there. All right, after we stir that through, a little bit of herbes de Provence, another classic French ingredient. It's a combination of herbs, very delicious here. We're just going to stir in about a quarter teaspoon of that. Mix it in. Now this mixture, that's going to be our real flavoring agent. We'll just let that sit aside. Let's talk about the potatoes that I'm going to use. These are some like white or gold potatoes. These were dug at the farm, and these have barely any skin. I mean, they've got a very thin skin. This is not like a russet potato that's got a big thick skin. So with these, you can just keep the skin on there. There's two ways to go about getting these ready for the tartiflette. They need to be sliced finely. You can use your chef's knife and do it, or if you have one of these, this is called a mandolin, you can use this, but by all means, make sure you're using the guard. These are very dangerous. Now with our potatoes all done and sliced up, it's time to start layering into our dish. And this is the one that I'm choosing. It's a good heavy bottom dish. Look for a lasagna pan or something like this that's going to be good in the oven. Now, let's talk about cheese. When you make tartiflette, or if you do any research, you're going to see that it calls for cheese. Today I'm going to be using a Gruyere cheese, which is a good sharp Swiss cheese. The recipe, the classic recipe, calls for Reblochon. I couldn't find it, and I looked at some very nice stores that have great cheese departments. So rather than show you a dish that you're not going to be able to find the cheese, we're going to make a substitution here. So don't email me and tell me that it's Reblochon. I know. Gruyere is what we're going to use. Let's start layering. Take your potatoes just like this and pretend you're playing cards, and you want to, just like that, deal them out in an even layer in your pan. So once you get your first layer of potatoes down, then get some of your bacon mixture and spoon that right on top. Then you want to add some of your Gruyere cheese and a little bit of black pepper, and keep layering one after another, doing the same thing. All right, all the layering is finished, and now it's time to cook the tartiflette. Before we do it, we're going to take some heavy-duty foil and cover it up. And what you can do is the last 15 minutes or so, you can remove the foil and that'll let it get a little brown on top. This is going into a 350-degree oven, and remember, these potatoes are completely raw. It's going to take at least 45 minutes, maybe even an hour, so give it time. Just use a little knife and pierce it to make sure that they're tender. The last thing you want to do is serve it if they're not tender. Into the oven we go. All right, our tartiflette has come out of the oven. I've given it a little time to cool down. It looks beautiful, nice and golden brown and tender, and it's time to serve it up. What we're going to do is just take a little serving utensil and just cut out a nice piece of our tartiflette, lay it on this little plate. And the last step is just going to be to take some fresh chives, which was one of the main ingredients in there, and just break them up and sprinkle them on top. And that is tartiflette. Give it a try sometime. When we return, I'll show you how to make crushed fingerling potatoes in duck fat with herbs. So stick around for that one. Fingerling potatoes. This is a delicious recipe. All right, the first step to make this is to steam the potatoes. I simply dump them into a steamer on the stove, and then I watch them and let them steam about 10 minutes. If you over steam these, when you go to crush them, which I'm going to show you in a minute, they're going to be mush. So they should still have some firmness to them. Now, before we get to the crushing, we need to put some duck fat in this pan. And duck fat can be bought at most gourmet stores. If you can't find duck fat, don't panic. Bacon fat will work just as well. So we're going to put down maybe a tablespoon of duck fat in the pan. And make sure you use an oven-safe pan because we're going to tuck it in the oven. Next is some shallot. We just want to flavor up that duck fat. So just take your knife and mince the shallot finely. Okay, now this goes right into the pan. Now we just want to stir it through. We're going to turn on our vent hood because the shallots are making me cry a bit. So a little bit of black pepper goes down right on top of them. We want to get a base of seasoning. A little bit of our kosher salt. And now let's talk about crushing the potatoes. As you can see, I took just a little sauce pot like this and I just wrapped it in tin foil. That way we can use it later without washing. And this is going to enable us to crush. So take a potato, lay it down, and then you're going to take this and just give it a little pound. And that's what you're looking for. So just continue smashing your potatoes, just like that, and layer them in one by one. And now I want to get some salt on the top side, plus a little more duck fat. So take your duck fat and just drizzle it right over. Okay, now a little bit of black pepper right on top because we want these to taste good on both sides. Some black pepper. And then a little bit of kosher salt. Maybe a touch more. And into the oven we go. Oven's at 350. Now with the fingerlings cooking, it's time to move on to the herb and butter infusion. This is really great. Take your pot, and we just need to strip off this foil. Just like that. If you want to throw it at your cameraman, that's cool, no problem. Now, in the pot, butter goes in here. Good butter, don't use cheap butter because you're really going to taste this. We're going to drizzle this on the potatoes later, so use good butter. This is some excellent local butter, and I'm going to put a big, what they call knob, right down on the pot. All right, now let's put this on the heat, but very low heat. If this gets too hot, you have to start over. So very low heat. And now let's prepare the herbs here. I've got two herbs, fresh chives and thyme. And thyme and chives and potatoes are best friends. These are good ones. Rosemary would work too. But take your chives and let's mince them up finely. Right in the pot. And now let's move on to the thyme. Now thyme, like other woody herbs like oregano and rosemary, it grows up out of the ground like that. To strip it off, you simply grab the top and pull, just like this. The leaves will come right off, then you pitch the stem. All right, now you just want to put a quick little mince on there, and trust me, if you get a little stem in there, it's not the end of the world. Use your knife to make sure that it's minced up. Now this goes right on top of your butter. Just like that. And then just take a spoon like this and stir it through. Now watch this very closely. Again, if you have the heat too high, you're going to burn the butter. Do not burn the butter. When the butter is melted, it goes off, and then we wait. Okay, our potatoes are looking quite beautiful, nice and golden brown. It's time to serve them up. So I just got a little white plate here. And what we're going to do is just lay them out on the plate. And guys, remember, this is a special occasion dish. You're not going to make this every day. It is rich, but it is delicious. Take our little herb butter and just drizzle it right on there. And that is plenty. Last step is to take a little bit of thyme. We're going to just garnish these potatoes just like that. And there is some amazing special occasion potatoes. Give these a try today. Stay tuned. After this short break, I'll be making a grilled New York strip steak with potato quenelles and red wine sauce. Welcome back to Harvest Eating. Now let's make some steak and potatoes with red wine sauce. This is some good eating. Okay, to make this dish, the first step is to get our potatoes peeled, and then we're going to drop them in some salted boiling water. We're using some gold potatoes, and we're also using an ancient potato. It's called a Peruvian purple potato. Very delicious. So while the potatoes are cooking, we're going to start our red wine sauce. And there's a few components to this, but it's not very difficult. So right here I've got a little saute pot over the heat. What I'm going to do is put down just a touch of olive oil. And now I'm going to drop in some shallots and garlic. On top of those, just a little bit of fresh thyme. Give it a stir through, being careful not to burn it. And what you're doing is called sweating. You just want the aromas of these vegetables just to start to perfume your kitchen, and then it's going to be time to deglaze. All right, now it's time to deglaze with our Cabernet. All right, and now on top of that goes some good quality beef stock. And by all means, if you can make it yourself, you're that much better off. So we'll put this right down on top. And now the key is to leave that uncovered and let it boil hard. You want it to reduce by about 60%, and then we'll finish it off a little later. Well, the potatoes cooked all the way through in the salted boiling water. We drained them out, and then what I did is turn on the heat underneath this pan just a little bit, and the idea there is to evaporate off any excess moisture that's left over when you boil potatoes. Now, let me also comment on my wine sauce. That has reduced all the way down. I actually reduced it more like 90%. And what I did with that is finished it with 2 pats of cold butter right out of the refrigerator, swirled it through, and then I re-seasoned it with a touch of salt and pepper. That is done and ready to use. So now let's start in mashing our potatoes. So we're going to take a potato masher and just start to break these down. Now I'm going to add some butter, kosher salt, black pepper, and fresh snipped chives. Now you just want to start working these ingredients in. And because potatoes have a lot of starch, they're going to allow me to make this quenelle. And the quenelle in French, it's, I'm not exactly sure what it means, but it is a football shape. And you're going to see me make it with these spoons in a minute. But in order to get it to stand up like that, you have to work the potatoes a bit to allow some of that starch to come out so they're ready to play nice. So now it's time to actually make the quenelle. And what I'm going to do is put it down on top of this ribeye steak. And this is very simple. I just took a very nice ribeye steak, a little olive oil, a little Harvest Eating seasoning mix. That went right into a hot skillet, flipped it over one time, finished it in the oven, and then I sliced it up and put it on this plate. Now, let's make the quenelle. And it's a simple procedure where you take 2 spoons and use them by sliding them inside the other one, and this helps to form the quenelle or sort of football shape. And now we want to lay it right down on top of our steak. And if you've done it right, it should stay and hold its form. So now we're going to add our wine sauce and we're done. And that smells and looks really great. I hope you enjoy this recipe. It's a little fancy, but it's definitely worth giving a try. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed today's potato recipes. I had a great time over at Blue Sky Farms, getting to learn about how Danny grows these wonderful potatoes, getting to dig some up, and to learn that the state of Florida truly is a wonderful potato producer. If you'd like to get these recipes, be sure to visit harvesteating.com. And I look forward to seeing you again right here on Harvest Eating.